Hello, everyone. This is Lexicon Architect coming at you with another budget commander list. Today, we're going to be looking at a Gruul commander. So let's hop right into it. So our commander is Halana and Alena. She is a 4-mana Gruul creature with power and toughness 2 and 3. She has first strike and reach. So at the beginning of combat on our turn, we can put X or 1 counters on another target creature, where X is Halana and its power, and that creature gains haste until the end of the turn. So if we can run this out turn 3 or 4, we can start generating a lot of value, as we can put these counters on another creature. That creature will gain haste. So if it's a mana dork, we'll be able to tap it immediately. If it didn't come into play the previous turn, which can in turn make some of these cards very nutty with her ability. I did just play a game with this deck on Moto, and it was functioning very well, although my friend swung in at me with like 10 creatures that all had power like 7/7 or greater. So I made the mistake by not blocking with my commander, and I ended up going to -3 in one attack. So if I did block, I probably could have survived for one more turn. But it was looking like I was pretty dead in the water at that point. But anyway, let's get into the deck. Enough with that, and let's talk about some of our cards. So we play Armorcraft Judge, a 4-mana 3/3. That when it ETBs, we draw a card for each creature with a 1/1 counter on it. So if we have 3 creatures with 1/1 counters, we'll draw 3. If it's 4 creatures, we'll draw 4. If it's 5, we'll draw 5. Then we play R1 Weaver of Hope. It's a 3-mana 2/1 that each other creature you control enters the battlefield with a number of 1/1 counters on it equal to the toughness of Arwen. So if we use our commander, put these counters on this, and then whenever a creature enters, it's going to enter with that many 1/1 counters on it based on its toughness. We play Beast Whisperer to draw us cards every time we play a creature spell. Birds of Paradise is our 1-mana ramp spell that adds 1 mana of any color. Duck Shield Crawler. When it ETBs, you put a 1/1 counter on a creature, and then each creature you control with 1/1 counter on it has trample. Elvish Mystic for ramp. Evolutionary Sage to proliferate the 1/1 counters that are on all of our creatures whenever a land ETBs. So if this stays on the battlefield for a while, we could just keep generating value, making our creatures bigger and stronger every time a land enters. We are playing Forgotten Ancient, a 4-mana 0/3. That whenever a player casts a spell, you put a counter on it, and at the beginning of our upkeep, you may move any of these number 1 counters to onto other creatures. So we might be incentivized, if that's the right word, I'm sorry, to move these counters to our commander, and then use our commander to buff something else. Finehorn Elves is for ramp. Goblin Anarchomancer makes our red and green spells cost 1 less to cast. Gyre Sage is a mana dork for us, so whenever another creature with greater power or toughness enters the battlefield, we put a 1/1 counter on this, and then it will add a green for each 1/1 counter on it, and then this synergizes well with our commander, so we can put the counters here and then generate a bunch of green mana. Huron Blade Elite is a 3-mana 1/1 with vigilance, and it says whenever another human enters the battlefield under our control, we put a 1/1 counter on it, and then we could tap this to add X mana of any one color, where X is his power. So this card also works with our commander, as we can dump the counters onto it, and then tap this to generate a bunch of mana. Same thing with Incubation Druid. As long as it has a 1/1 counter on it, it's going to add 3 mana of any one color. Same as Kami of the Whisper Hopes, although this one has a hardened scale ability, but we can put counters on this to add X mana of any one color, where X is its power. Then we're playing Kodama the West Tree because modified creatures we control have trample. So since counters are modifications, every time we deal combat damage with a modified creature, we will thin our deck and get lands. Krenko is also another great target for our commander because whenever it attacks, you put a 1/1 counter on it, and then you'll create a number of 1/1 red goblins, creature tokens with power equal to Krenko's power. Landwar Elf for ramp. Mana Gorger, 3 mana 1/1 with trample. Whenever a player casts a spell, you put a 1/1 counter on it. Marwyn is also for ramp, as we can use our commander to put these counters here, and then she will generate a bunch of mana for us. Orden Reef Ooze, whenever it enters the battlefield, you'll put a 1/1 counter on each target creature you control, and then whenever it attacks, put a 1/1 counter on each attacking creature with a 1/1 counter on it. Pride Malkin allows us to give our creatures trample as long as they have a 1/1 counter on it, and then when the ETBs, we can put a 1/1 counter on target creature. Quirion Beastcaller, a 2 mana 2/2 that whenever we cast a creature spell, put a 1/1 counter on it, and then when it dies, we can distribute all those counters among any number of target creatures control, where X is the number of 1/1 counters on it. Then we're playing Renata, Call to the Hunt, a 4 mana with 3 toughness. Its power is equal to our devotion to green. So each green symbol in our mana cost or permanence we control counts towards devotion, and then each other creature you control enters the battlefield with an additional 1/1 counter. Then we're playing Rishkar Kima Renegade, a 3 mana 2/2. Then when it ETBs, you put a 1/1 counter up to 2 target creatures, and then those creatures can tap for a green mana. We're playing Secure Tribe Elder to thin our deck and get lands. Samet, Vizier of Noctamoon. It's a 3 mana 2/3 with first strike, vigilance, and haste. And then whenever a creature you control deals combat damage to a player, if that creature enters the battlefield this turn, you will draw a card. Then we're playing Scavenger Ooze. It's a 2 mana 2/2 that we can pay a green to exile a card from a graveyard, and if it was a creature card, you put a 1/1 counter on this and you gain 1 life. So this is good, so we can eat alive our opponent's graveyards, get rid of their best creatures from their graveyard in case they try to reanimate them, and we're going to gain life along the way. Then we're playing Thundering Raiju, a 4 mana 3/3 with haste. Whenever it attacks, you put a 1/1 counter on target creature you control, and then Thundering Raiju deals X damage to each opponent, where X is the number of modified creatures you control other than Thundering Raiju. So if we do, for some reason, attack only one person, this is going to ping all of our opponents at the same time, which is very good, so we can drain everyone in one attack. Then we're playing Tuya Bearclaw, a 3 mana 2/2, that whenever it attacks, it gets XX until the end of the turn, where X is the greatest power among other creatures you control. And then our final creature is Wild Beastmaster, a 3 mana 1/1 that has the same ability as Tuya Bearclaw, where it gets XX to the end of turn, but this time it's where it's its own power. And then for sorceries, we're playing Cultivate for ramp, Decimate to destroy a target artifact, creature, target enchantment, or target land. Harmonize is to draw 3 cards. Hull Breach also allows us to destroy a target artifact, enchantment, or target artifact and target enchantment, so we can get rid of 2 things at once. Kodama's Reach for ramp, Nature's Lore for ramp, Rampant Growth for ramp. Thirsting Roost allows us to either get a basic land and put it into our hand, or we can proliferate, so we can put an additional 1/1 counter on all creatures that already have counters on them. And then for instance, we're playing Beast Within for removal, Entish Restoration to ramp us some lands, Gaia's Gift to protect one of our creatures, or give it Reach, Trample, Hexproof, and Indestructible, Herald to ram through for removal, and if the creature had trampled, it will deal excess damage to the opponent. Snakeskin Veil for protection, Solidarity of Heroes, because we can pay this multiple times, so if we do have a bunch of loaded up mana dorks that are tapping for tons of mana, we can just pay it all for this, and you can choose any number of creatures and you double the number of 1/1 counters on them. Tamiyo Safekeeping for protection, and Tybar Stand for protection. Then for artifacts, we're playing Signet, Commander's Field, Grow Signet, Lightning Greaves for protection, Ozolith for Scalability, Soul Ring for ramp, Swift Boots for protection, and Talisman of Impulse to be able to add either a colorless or a red or a green that will deal 1 damage to us. Then we're playing Bear Umbra, which gives the creature totem armor and +2/+2, and then whenever it attacks, we then tap all of our lands. Colossal Majesty allows us to draw cards during our upkeep if we control a creature with power 4 or greater. Fight Rigging is very good for us because it's a 3 mana enchantment with Hideaway 5. So we're going to look at the top 5 cards of our library, put one of them underneath this card, and then at the beginning of our combat, we can put a 1/1 counter into our creature, and then if we control a creature with power 7 or greater, we can play the exile card without paying its mana cost. Then we're playing Invigorating Hot Spring. It comes in with four 1/1 counters on it. Modified creatures we control have haste, so anything that has an equipment or counters on it, it's a modification. We can remove a counter from this to put a counter onto our creature. We can only activate it once and only as a sorcery. We're going to play Kenra's Transformation to deal with a problematic creature that we don't want our opponent activating. Then we're going to draw a card. Rancor is to give a creature +2/+0 and trample, and then whenever this is put in the graveyard, we return it to our hand. Then we're playing Rhythm of the Wild. Creature spells we control cannot be countered, and non-token creatures you control have Riot, so they're going to either enter in with a 1/1 counter or haste, depending on what we want to choose. Roaring Earth is a very good 2-mana enchantment that says whenever a land enters the battlefield under our control, we put a 1/1 counter onto our creature or vehicle, and if we do channel it, we can discard it to put X 1/1 counters on target land you control. It becomes a 0/0 green spirit creature with haste, and it's still a land. And then finally, one of the engines of the deck is Tribute to the World Tree. So whenever a creature enters the battlefield under our control, draw a card if its power is 3 or greater, otherwise put 2 1/1 counters on it. And then for lands, we're just going to be playing the basic land package. So I'm only going to go over Mosswork Bridge, Hideaway 4, I believe. Look at the top 4, put 1 card under it. As long as we control creatures, all of our creatures have power 10 or greater. Combined, we can pay a green to play the card for free. And then Spine Rock Knoll with Hideaway 4, put a card under it. And then for 1 red, we may pay the exile card if we dealt 7 or more damage to an opponent. So that is the deck in a nutshell. Our mana curve is 3. So turn 3, things start popping off. 86% of our spells are green, 15% are red, and 11% are colorless. So this is the deck. I hope you enjoyed it. It's going to run you somewhere between 145 to 150 in cash if you're going to build this deck in paper. Online, I'm not too sure how much it costs because I had the majority of all this deck already in my collection, so it only costs me less than a ticket to build this. But if you do like this deck, it will be uploaded to YouTube shortly with all my social media links. Please subscribe to me on YouTube so I can keep providing you with quality content every day. I hope you have a good night and take care.